Now, if I'm going to be the controller of something that's fictitious, how do I get you to be obligated to me? Well, I'd have to have some kind of tag control membership name. So historically, we look through the records. How did this occur? How did uh, Satan and his kingdoms and his rulers get people to become members of them? Well, in essence, they assigned titles onto them and then got them to privately use them so that they had an obligation at that point. So simply that scam, which is a dummy being a dummy, which is found in Black's Law as an individual who holds legal title or claims a public legal surname for their own use. So very simply, if I'm using something that's a foreign title that's not mine, and I claim it, well, then my own consent has made me into a surety or an obligor to it. So we're going into a very simple concept is guaranteeing someone else's debt. It's very simple. So if I'm using a name, and if that eminent domain of the legal state or the crown decides that they want to be involved in commerce and dump their obligations into someone else's hands that's involved in commerce, they of course would dump the titles that they assigned onto the unwary into the hands of a third party. So that's what they did. They just said, look, we're not going to pay this debt. We'll just give you all the dummies who are using the titles that they believe are theirs. So we just transferred them into the hands of even a worse situation than it was before when the kings were controlling this. Now they're putting it in the hands of private lenders who basically now control the titles. And that's all that's going on there. So, a fictitious, rulership, basically decides to let their fictitious, basically population of deceived citizens, become part of the next game that goes on with their creditors. So it's not really a complicated situation. You're just looking at it as you've consented to guarantor a title that doesn't belong to you. And that's it. And that's what makes you obligated. We've heard every type of explanation that has usually led people down so many bad rabbit holes that they don't they would not know what to do, and they're making it way too complicated. Yes, I could probably write 50 pages of truth in a notice, but it's not going to require that. All you have to do is withdraw your private consent to surety the public title name. You've elected to do so, and you can change, but you can't stay in, okay, and elect to go down the proper path that's going to give you relief. So the property you've been holding thus far was never yours anyways. It always belonged to the crown in legal theory, and all they were letting you do was simply pay a fee for the use of their title by license. So you never had the property anyway, so don't think you're going to be in any less control doing the right thing and separating yourself from it. At least at that point, you won't be the one having to manage the title. They needed someone to do this. Could you imagine what would happen if everybody started to pull out? Everybody started to withdraw their private, God-given name out of the public legal, scam. Well, guess who's going to be left holding the bag? All those legal lawyers who are about to reap what they sow, because it's their consent to operate in a lie, operate in a fiction. And so God is not one to be mocked. A man will, reap what he sows. So they've sown deceit with Satan. They've joined and crossed the line from God to Satan in their allegiance. That's why they're called devil's advocates. And God will hold them responsible. So they're going to get stuck with their own debt. The next video is going to be a very simple example of what's really going to happen with these counterfeit securities that have been using your given name with your own consent all this time. So we're going to show what's going to happen in the next video on that.